You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the Star Trek Prodigy episode, Asylum. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel is Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom. I am the panel, I think.
You are the panel. Father Corey, as I mentioned in our last episode, is out sick. We're recording these episodes back to back, so he's not that he's still sick. He's just
at the time of recording.
At the time of recording, he's been sick for the amount of time that this recording takes. However, that may come across to you,
so
folks.
Keep him in your prayers because prayer across time works.
Yes, it does. Folks, be sure to check out our merchandise. You can get your very own Secrets of Star Trek t-shirt or mug or phone case or sticker. The laptop stickers are particularly nice by visiting sqpn.com/merch. And another show on the network you're sure to enjoy is called Raising the Bets, and you can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/bets. That's BETTS.
So it's like what you do in Las Vegas, but with an extra T.
Yes, or what I'm doing with my wife, which is raising our kids, the bets. So Jimmy, we are talking about this episode of Star Trek Prodigy.
Are we?
Yes, we are. Which is the first episode of the second half of the first season, because for some reason Paramount Plus has split the season in half, and so we're getting the next 10 episodes in this run. And so could you give us a recap of what happens, which probably includes a recap of what happened at the end of last season?
Yeah, interestingly, they began this episode without a recap. I expected a previously on Star Trek Prodigy, but they didn't give us that. In any event, last time, the Protostar kids rescued all the slaves on the mining colony Tars Lamora, retook the Protostar, and stranded the Diviner. In the process, the Diviner revealed to Gwyn that the Protostar is booby-trapped with a virus to cause the downfall of Starfleet as part of his plan to change history and save his homeworld of Solemn from the civil war that will happen when Starfleet makes first contact with it in the future. But in defeating the Diviner, Zero exposed his Medusan form, and it wiped Gwyn's memories, so she no longer remembers the booby trap on the ship. This week, the gang saves a whale that's being hunted by merpeople, and we learn that they're racking up good deeds on their way back to Federation space to impress Starfleet. Soon, they arrive at a Federation communications relay that's manned by a Denobulan named Frex. But when Frex downloads the Protostar's logs, the virus comes with, and the station starts attacking itself, and parts of it get all explodey. Thinking the kids have betrayed him, Frex takes the only escape pod and leaves. This forces the kids to go EVA and make a jump in spacesuits to get back to the Protostar, whose transporter is conveniently offline. They get back, but in the process, Gwyn's memories return and she remembers everything. Meanwhile, the real biological Admiral Janeway has taken another ship to Tars Lamora, where she and her crew discover the Diviner in stasis. The end.
So it felt like a quick episode.
Yeah, it did. Well, they all do. I mean, they've got that enormous opening sequence on this show, and they've got their new Star Trek ship fly around thing at the beginning of every episode of any Star Trek. Yeah. And they've got a really big post-credit sequence for the closing credits, I should say. And yeah, these are short. These prodigies feel short because they are. Yeah,
even shorter than Lower Decks, which is an animated. So they go quick, and there's a lot of running through corridors that happens in this one too. So there's not a lot to talk about.
Yeah, they don't cram it full of content the way. Yeah. I mean, it's for kids, so the pace of the show. This is kind of ironic. The pace of the kids show is slower than the adult show. But they're not like cramming in a joke every 12 seconds, right? The way they do on Lower Decks,
right? So, as you mentioned, we left off with the Diviner, having found out that the Diviner came from the future to stop Starfleet, basically. Mm-hmm. I like this idea. It is it's not original. Someone comes from the future to change the past, but it's original also, for Star Trek.
It's also a good explanation for why he's called the diviner. He's from the future. He can divine it. He's seen it.
Yes, exactly. And he was left catatonic because having seen the Medusan gets your brain scrambled. So that was the end of that one. And so we have this sort of start in media res with them in the underwater shuttle that our crew, and the Protostar crew, and trying to rescue this whale, which is a long tradition for Starfleet, apparently, of rescuing whales from extinction.
Following in James Kirk's footsteps.
Yes. And like you said, they're trying to rack up, Good Samaritan points. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because they know they're in essentially a stolen starship, although they didn't steal it.
I know this is unrealistic, and Holo Janeway ought to correct them on this and say, look, Starfleet is not going to have a problem with you taking this ship. The ship was taken by someone else and put in this mining facility, and you guys were oppressed and used it to liberate yourself and bring it back to Starfleet. You're going to get a reward.
They're going to be grateful for you to bring the ship back and, probably help you. Now,
I mean, it's understandable. The kids, being kids,
yeah,
would think, oh, we stole this, therefore they're going to be mad. But Janeway should set them right on that.
Right. Holo Janeway, yeah, because we do have multiple Janeways in this episode.
I'm going to refer, since Holo Janeway is the main character on the show, I'm going to refer to her as just Janeway, and I'll refer to the other as real biological Admiral Janeway or biological Janeway.
Or even just Admiral Janeway, since the Holo Janeway is not Admiral. It's her earlier version.
Yeah, but it's more fun to say biological Janeway.
Okay, that's good. So they're trying to save the whale without violating the Prime Directive and that sort of thing. Gwyn, meanwhile, is undergoing treatments by Zero to help her overcome the effects of the Medusan vision, seeing the Medusan. And she keeps getting these flashes of her father saying, "It is a weapon.
It is a weapon. I'm going to eat chicken now."
Sing me a song, Hobbit. So it's the kid, John Noble. John Noble, great actor. It's fantastic. So,
and of course, yes, I was referring to the terrifying chicken eating scene in The Two Towers.
All I could see is him eating the cherry tomato. That, oh my gosh, it's so gross. So her memory's scrambled, as we mentioned, and so then they get to the Starfleet comm relay station where there's a single officer on board, this Denobulan, the first Denobulan Starfleet officer. I mean, we've seen Dr. Phlox on board the Enterprise, but he was on loan from Denobulus.
That was so 2100s.
So yes, no, Denobulans are just everywhere now. And one of the fun things is they have to be scanned into the system.
I love how when they show up, his first thought is like, am I going to be transferred to someplace worse?
Because he's basically the equivalent of like an Air Force comm station, radar station in northern
Iceland or something.
It's like northern Alaska, something like that on the Barents Sea. So he's as far as you can get. As he says, the final frontier. Why would you need a comm relay station out there if you're the furthest one out?
They're talking to people, in the Gamma Quadrant and the Delta Quadrant, and
I suppose
things have been biggened in Starfleet.
That's true. So, so he's far out there and he's alone, and he needs to scan them to get their identities to log them into the system. And this is the chance for these kids who don't have any memory of their past to find out, who they are, what they are. And so Rock Talk finds out she's a Brickar, and the Tellarite,
Jenkum
Pog finds out he's a Tellarite, one of the founding members of the Federation.
So that immediately goes to his head, and he thinks that makes him special, and he's got political pull.
He's royalty. And for the first time, we find out what species Murph is. He's a melanoid slime worm.
Yeah, and he doesn't really get scanned. Frex just recognizes him. Oh, a melanoid slime worm.
Right, right. I think there's more to be determined about Murph, that he's more than just a melanoid slime worm. We heard of melanoid slime worms before in Next Gen when in the Academy, Starfleet Academy, someone calls Wesley a melanoid slime worm. So
okay.
That's the first.
I suspect Murph is secretly sentient.
Yes, and maybe a shapeshifter. That's my feeling. Is it might be like one of Odo's race founder.
That would be interesting.
Yeah,
less cute.
Yeah, or maybe he's a nice founder like Odo was. So, and then we have Dal, not Dal.
Yeah, well,
sorry.
Okay, they also scan Gwen, and as she predicts, she's not in their database because, of course, Starfleet has not yet made first contact with Solemn, so they won't know her race.
Right.
But Dal, when he gets scanned, he turns out to be a report to Starfleet Command.
Yes.
That's his race, report to Starfleet Command.
That is interesting. So of course, will future reveal of who he really is or what he is. That should be important. So they all get logged in, and then Zero takes Gwen to the sickbay on the comm relay station because it's more advanced than the Protostar's sickbay. Which
I was kind of dubious on that too.
Yeah.
I mean, the Protostar is a little prototype ship, so sure, its sickbay may not be the best, although you were sending it on a dangerous mission.
Yes.
But I could see a more like on a Galaxy class ship, the sickbay would be better, but on the dinky one-man, comm relay station, it's got a better sickbay. Okay.
Yeah, that was a little dubious, but anyway, they Zero puts her in there, and that's when this comm relay officer, Barnes Frex, downloads the Protostar's logs, and that starts the virus to self-destroy itself. Now,
and suddenly the scene in the sickbay becomes like the scene from Prometheus, where you have the Ridley character trapped in the auto dock, and it's trying to kill her.
Oh, I haven't seen that one, so I haven't seen Prometheus yet.
Oh, well, there's a scene where the Ripley equivalent is in an auto dock, and it's trying to kill her.
So the interesting, like, this is a bad virus if you think about it, because it should go into the computer and lay in wait until it infects other Starfleet computers.
Bad in a different sense.
Yes.
Okay.
It's bad at its job. It's sort of like the E. coli as opposed to the flu.
Ebola.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, Ebola, not E. coli. Ebola, right, where it kills the host
real quick
before it can
spread.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Yeah, no. If you don't want to kill, if you're a virus, do not kill your host before you have a chance to spread. You want to spread as widely as possible. I mean, frankly, if you're a virus, you don't care about killing the host. But you certainly, I mean, what you're interested in is replication, self-replication.
Yeah.
And you're going to limit your self-replication if you kill the host before you have a chance to replicate and spread to other hosts.
Right.
So what you need to do is not, I mean, guys, just speaking to all the viruses in the audience, become the common cold. Okay. Most successful virus in history. You know why? It doesn't kill the host.
That's right.
And as a result, it's not even that bad. It makes you feel bad and you get sniffly, so you can expel the virions onto other people. But it doesn't kill the host, and that's why it's so successful.
In fact, a lot of times the people don't feel so bad, so they still go to work.
Yeah.
In fact, they're coworkers. So yes, that is a better virus.
You could be. We talked about this in the episode of Mysterious World on mind control parasites. But you could even become the flu if you want. I mean, the flu is a little more deadly, but it makes people, when they're pre-symptomatic, it makes them feel sociable. So they want to go to parties and be around other people. And that also is helpful for spreading yourself around as a virus. But worst thing you can do is be Ebola. do not kill the host before you have a chance to spread to a lot of people, because your infestation will just burn out quickly, which is what always happens with Ebola. It keeps making the same mistakes.
Right, and doesn't evolve.
God.
Thank God, because Ebola is a terrible, terrible disease. Yeah, it's not funny at all, but yeah, it is a terrible disease. So, and this virus acts more like Ebola, where it infects the station and immediately starts destroying it, which it makes me wonder, how is this virus going to destroy Starfleet? You know, it destroys a station, but, you know, if this were to happen closer in and a Galaxy-class ship gets infected, they're going to say, well, let's stand back from the Protostar because something's going on with that ship. Let's be careful with it. And then the Diviner's plan seems ineffective, to say the least.
At least what we've seen of it so far, it seems so far ineffective.
That's true. There could be more to it than we're seeing.
Actually, probably not, because they're not going to take down Starfleet with this thing. They're going to quickly decide we can't go back. Right.
That's true. Meanwhile, we have Janeway, biological Janeway, watching a hollow recording of the christening of the Protostar with Chakotay. Although it was a strangely...
Captain Chakotay.
Strangely lacking in admirals and other officials at this event. But it was a bottle of Chateau Picard being, thrown to crash against the side of the Protostar to christen it. Sort of talking about him going off without her, but he's taking the Janeway hologram with him to advise him and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I like how he says, because she's concerned about him. He says, well, if I get into trouble, you'll be the first person I call.
That's right. Interesting little casting is there's an Andorian officer on Janeway's staff called Commander Tysus, played by Daveed Diggs, which is a actor some may know from Hamilton and some other things. He's got a real great voice, so I really like him as a Andorian.
Also on Janeway's crew is a Tellarite played by Jason Alexander.
That's right.
And Jamila Jamil, or however you say her name, is a Trill on Janeway's crew.
Yes, Essentia, I think is her name. And the Jason Alexander character, Dr. Noom, so he's the doctor on that staff. So that should be very interesting. The Trill
tusks.
Yes.
Don't know that I'd want a doctor that has tusks, but okay.
And Jason Alexander, famously big Star Trek fan, who does a William Shatner imitation that is like perfect. It is right on. So it's really great to have him there. And so the crew of the Protostar have to get off of the station destroying itself. The officer Frex abandons them. Like he gets to the escape pod and just leaves them there. Although he's in an escape pod, like where's he going?
Well, so I think that like escape pods frequently have like little impulse engines or something that let them maybe get to another solar system. But
yeah. Well,
also we have the alien problem here from the movie Alien. It's like, okay, you've got a lifeboat that won't carry all your people.
Right.
Why?
Well, he's the only crew member assigned, but you might.
The station is big enough to have other people on it, and it does.
Yes,
and it having a single life pod is not. I mean, come on, even NASA has better redundancy than that. They build triple redundancy onto space shuttles and things. You're not going to have just one life pod. Well, what if something goes wrong with it?
That's right. So the Protostar crew, they put on spacesuits, climb out onto the exterior, and Roktok has to calculate a trajectory on the fly for them to jump off and jump into the open shuttle bay of the Protostar.
Because so this is part of why this episode feels so light, is because they're focusing on action.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the space whale hunting thing at the beginning. That's just an action sequence to chew up time.
Yeah.
Now we have the kids. Okay, so typical Starfleet technological failure to generate drama. We have the transporter of the Protostar conveniently offline.
Yes.
For no clear reason, because the virus doesn't affect the Protostar, and yet the transporter is down for some reason in an emergency. Right. And they can't use the escape pod because there's only one of them and the other guy takes it. And so now they've got to do an EVA jump in spacesuits. And to juice the drama, it's like, it's all down to you, Rock Talk. You're the only one who knows mathematics. And so you got to calculate a trajectory mentally for us to leap into the shuttle bay of the Protostar as it's swinging by. And I'm going, the Protostar is maneuverable.
Right.
If you miss, she will just swing around again and pick you up. The important thing is get off the explodey station.
Well, and why doesn't the Protostar come closer?
Yeah, well, I mean, you could say it's a safety thing, but get off the explodey station and she can pick you up one at a time. You have spacesuits to survive. You're not going to spin off into the frozen void and run out of air and die before she picks you up.
Right.
And in fact, they do miss. And Janeway turns on a tractor beam and yanks them all in. Problem solved.
Which she could have done from the first place. Just jump off, I will tractor beam you in. Like, yeah. And the initial problem was they had come aboard on a force field, tunnel, basically airlock tunnel that got destroyed. So that was the other thing that was preventing them getting back. So
like the ones we saw in Discovery.
Right.
First season of Discovery.
That's right. So the station destroys itself. They're back on the ship. I think they know now that there's a virus or something that the ship did cause the station to self-destruct.
Yeah, as they're jumping back to the ship, I guess there's trauma or something in the jump, and Gwen says she remembers everything.
Right, she remembers everything. And then that's when we switch to Janeway and her crew have made their way out to Tars Lamora.
With some kind of other super fast ship that Starfleet obviously has now.
Yes. Well, at some point, they introduced something that's called slipstream drive, which is even faster than warp drive. I know it's been in the novels. I don't know if it's ever been on screen, but it might be that.
The Borg has used it and so forth, but on the novels,
they're not really canon.
I hate to say it, but they're not canon. Yeah, except
for the Titan. The Riker's ship there's a series of books on the Titan, which they incorporated into the. Although I think the Titan was mentioned on screen, it was in the movie. Yeah. So. Never mind. So let's. And so she shows up there. That's where she's with her crew, Essentia, Tysus, and Dr. Noom, and they discover all the destruction. And the sole remaining person is the Diviner, now floating in the zero gravity.
And they say he's in stasis, but hopefully he has answers. So they're going to wake him up and try to get answers out of him. But he saw Medusa in full force. Yeah, his brain is scrambled. So we'll see. I mean, there's going to be something more from the Diviner. The question is how they get there, but it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. So, any other notes on this episode? No, it's a pretty light episode. And despite the fact me pointing out its plot holes, I mean, it's for kids, and it was fun, and it was fine. Just plot holy. Yeah, and I'm drawn in. I want to see where the story goes and what happens with it. So I'm curious to see. I really like the fact that this is sort of almost the sequel to Voyager. We get to see Chakotay and we see Admiral Janeway, and so it's fun to also get in that. And I'm glad they're back in Starfleet range anyway. That we're going to see some actual Starfleet folks, which is what Star Trek is. So that's kind of fun. Cool. All right. So that should do it for this time. We want to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek, including... Then let's thank them.
Oh, let's do that. Let's thank Patrick C., Heidi M., Helen O., and Michael S. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So we'd love to hear what you think of Prodigy and this episode called Asylum. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, or our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to trek@sqpn.com, or visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next new episode of Prodigy called Let Sleeping Borg Lie. Do you wonder what that's about? Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, and live long and prosper.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, sometimes the hardest thing is to take a leap of faith. Because every kid's show has to have a lesson.
Tell that to Soren Kierkegaard.